You are now about to go on a generic side quest.
Hello, and welcome to another generic side quest. This generic transmission is a wrestling pod. We're going to be talking generically about some topics. Nothing really groundbreaking has happened in the past 2 weeks, so we're going to try something a little different. Today I'm joined with
Ricky the Leaf, your casual viewer.
And myself, mid-card blogger, WWE enthusiast, and watcher of no other promotions because they don't exist.
Yeah.
Plug your ears, close your eyes, and hum. And obviously, my name is Amreal. How you guys doing this week?
Good.
Good?
Yeah, nothing. I mean, Raptors won.
Raptors won.
And we went to the parade and didn't get shot, so that's good. For all you in Toronto.
Today is the trade not deadline.
Today is the draft.
The draft, yeah. Sean, how you doing, man?
Not bad. Again, happy that the Raptors won, was able to attend a parade. Just that sea of humanity was pretty incredible.
2 mil?
Yeah, it just reminded me, despite not being able to see the stage, is that kind of like how WrestleMania might be if you ever go to a stadium show.
True.
And that kind of atmosphere, and maybe just like, maybe that's what the big appeal now of WrestleMania. It's not so much floor side or ringside seats, but the atmosphere of WrestleMania. So
being in the thick of it with the fans.
Oof. Unforgiven.
So,
That was amazing.
Oh yeah, we went to Unforgiven 2000.
I don't know, but it was
2006.
TLC match between Edge and Cena.
Oh yeah,
Where you got FU'd through
3 tables.
Yeah.
And
Highlanders versus Spirit Squad.
Oh man,
Hell in
and
a Cell.
the Hell in a Cell where we got to see Big Show's ass. That was nice.
I think today we'll start off by talking about one of the most hot angles on WWE television. It's so hot
He burned his tongue on it.
Oh
my
man,
gosh.
I'm sorry.
That being the 24/7 title.
Oh gosh.
No. Firefly Fun House. Bray Wyatt's Firefly Fun House. Are you guys familiar with the Fun House?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching it weekly. The one thing I look forward to on Raw.
It's actually something that I go on if I miss it. I don't watch Raw too often, but if I do and I miss that segment, I'll make sure to go on their YouTube site to check it out. It's just so different. Have you seen that video of I think it was Seth Rollins and Kofi Kingston or Xavier Woods? It came on and Seth was like, yo, watch this. That's he basically was channeling the fans, I feel, because it was just so like, wow, what's happening? I think it's a good thing for Bray to, I don't think he necessarily needed to reboot his character, but it's a good thing that he did because he was kind of floundering. Rick, so what do you think about it as the casual fan?
It's different, and I always like different, so it does pique my interest.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I haven't been tuning in every week to watch it. I've seen a few of those episodes online.
Yeah.
But I do like that it's weird. Like, it's just very weird. It's very unlike WWE, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
Which I like to see.
Yeah. Recently, I feel WWE has become very cookie cutter, same match week in, week out. So yeah, you're right. It's good to experience something different, and it's kind of edgy, even though it's presented as kiddie.
Yeah.
Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through some of my reaction to the Firefly Fun House. So I know apparently the first hint of it was April 22nd. So going back, fair amount of time. My first reaction was, what the hell did they do to Bray Wyatt?
Yeah.
Why is he kind of coming out as, it's kind
The
of like
closet.
a Mr. Rogers. There's nothing wrong with that, but the Mr. Rogers type of feel. I don't know if you guys remember Happy Land, that dude who used to draw, and it was like kids could draw along with him, and his characters came to life.
Yeah, vaguely.
It was kind of like that, and kids like cheering or like children's participation.
Yeah.
Like not I don't know. It just sort of reminded me of like here in Toronto, We had YTV,
Yeah.
and you had your your Camp Caribou, your PJ Katie Farm,
Exactly.
all these like children's shows, and that's kind of the vibe I got.
Classic.
So I was like, that's lame for a wrestling gimmick, but they've won me over definitely as the weeks have gone by, and I think it just teaches the lesson like give something time. It may die, and you've given it time. It sucks, but give it time, and it actually could turn around. So.
Well, hopefully it's not like the Fandango thing where fans kind of latched on over time and then they kind of went nowhere with it. I don't think this would be like that because they've definitely put in time and energy into the skits. And going so far as to include Devil McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, whoa, they're definitely trying something new here. Because usually they don't like to poke fun at themselves.
No.
But I think Firefly Fun House is 100% poking fun at themselves. Where Husky Harris, the pig, Huskus, is making fun of Bray's first incarnation. They even they kept the Sister Abigail character.
Is that what the doll is?
Yeah, the witch doll. And there were rumors that Bray might actually come back as Sister Abigail to fight Finn Balor as the Demon King, which would have been horrible. I'm glad. Who got injured? I think it was Bray. He got a virus, so he couldn't come.
Yeah, meningitis, laryngitis.
Yeah.
Isn't that what Roman Reigns had or something?
Yeah.
The whole locker room got.
Oh, wow.
And that actually gave us the great match between Finn Balor and
AJ
Styles.
Mm-hmm.
So, the rabbit, I still can't figure out what the rabbit is supposed to represent, but he just keeps on getting torn apart.
To me, I always, because the rambling part, I don't know how prevalent an opinion it was, but people found that the Bray Wyatt character would get into this menacing, poetic kind of trying to illustrate what the world around us looks like, and it eventually just became, to me,
rambling. And
maybe other people, just a rambling of nonsensical terms, and I think that's a criticism he identified with, and so he created this rambling rabbit character to be like, okay, shut up, say something of substance.
Right. And then the buzzard is obviously his go-to.
And then Mercy is to reflect Waylon Mercy, who was a character back in 1995, who was based on Robert De Niro's Cape Fear character. Oh. Yeah, Waylon Mercy had this. He used to be Dan Spivey back in the 80s, but then he had this mark in his forehead. And his promos was him in a Hawaiian shirt, similar to Bray Wyatt's original, sitting in the rocks. And he would always talk in riddles, Bray Wyatt, and always repeat the line, "You know what I mean." So WWF, this is Waylon Mercy. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm a Southern gentleman. You know what I mean? And they look at his zoom into his eyes. So I think Mercy the Buzzard is to reflect Bray's inspiration for his character from Waylon Mercy.
Crazy.
Dan Spivey, who I'm sure teamed with his dad, Mike Rotunda, and all
right,
that. So,
right.
There's your history lesson.
That is your history. That is actually very informative. I did not know that about Mercy the Buzzard. Now, I think that besides the characters, he has been poking fun of some of his other gimmicks. I think in this past Firefly Fun House, he mentioned worms. Mm-hmm. Some of your dreams could turn out to be worms, and that's a bad idea. And that's a direct reference to his Randy Orton match at WrestleMania, where he projected worms on the mat. Now, a lot of people didn't like that. I love that. That was different, and it was crazy. It was kind of like mind games, like Undertaker mind games. The only thing is, he should have won that match.
Yeah.
Orton should have gotten scared of the worms, turned around into Sister Abigail, 1, 2, 3, retained title. Mm-hmm. But they wasted it. So that's why it was kind of a flop.
Yeah, that was my worst match of 2017.
A lot of people, surprisingly, I
remember seeing gifs of the worms thing.
What did you think of it?
I thought it was silly, but
you did think it was silly.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't watch the match, so I only saw that. So I saw people making fun of it, and then I'm like, it's a joke type of thing, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sure they were trying to make it come off a little bit more or less cheesy.
Right. See, I don't know. I didn't get the cheese factor of it. I thought it was that was a legitimate tactic. The ring, not necessarily, oh no, I'm scared of worms. It's something different happened in the ring, like a distraction method. Mm-hmm. You got distracted. Oh, what the heck is going on? And then they could have done so much more. I feel
they could have got Boogeyman.
I think if they had inverted the roles. But I think Randy Orton. Anyways, not to go back on that match, but I think Randy Orton was the wrong opponent because Randy Orton's persona would no sell that kind of imagery.
Yeah.
But if that was babyface Bray Wyatt versus a heel Miz or a heel Daniel Bryan, who's
Okay.
like, what the hell is this?
All
Like,
right.
I'm a wrestler. I don't do like projections. Like I'm here for a wrestling match.
Yeah, yeah.
Get back in the ring. The cockroach image. Daniel Bryan steps out,
Right.
and it's like, is this guy gonna stop with the graphics? Like, we're here to wrestle. Get back in. One more. Daniel Bryan turns to the ref. What is this? Turns into Sister Abigail.
Exactly.
And like that. So you'd have like a cowardly heel that
Sure.
falls for these and sells like, I'm not comfortable
Yeah.
wrestling in the dark. So I think if
Kinda like-
it was done that way, but at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship, I think that's where it kind of all
Sign
falls
this
apart.
man, you guys. Sign him.
So, along with that, he introduced the hammer.
Mhm.
Do you think that's a reference to the Bludgeon Brothers?
No. What I've heard is I don't think it is, to be honest.
Mhm.
I think it was it's kind of like those like foam hammers that always like used to
Yeah.
make those sounds, but from what I heard, Rambling Rabbit I can't believe we're spending a podcast talking about these characters, but the Rambling Rabbit character threatened in the Firefly Fun House to reveal what takes place backstage, or what takes place when you're not watching.
Right.
People have thrown out the theory was Bray Wyatt enacting Vince McMahon's desire to send a message to anybody who does these shoot podcasts and wants to talk about me and my good ideas, and want to talk about how I conduct myself off camera. Say it again and
Mm-hmm.
you're done. So that's where I don't personally believe. I think that's a little bit of like tinfoil and all that stuff, UFOs and conspiracy, a bit
But I
too
could-
far. But
I could see why they would do that, because the whole Devil McMahon, that came out on social media. I believe it was Gail Kim who first said he's the devil, and it was echoed by other people, especially leading up to AEW and all this stuff.
yeah, but I mean, he's been like JR's referred to him as Satan himself on their show.
True,
But
but I think
he popped up in WrestleMania 19 with the bloodstained, and Taz called him Satan. So I think
yeah.
McMahon knows that people perceive him as Satan.
Now, do you think it's still a closed box where he's like, I created this image of me? Do you think he believes it's people don't actually think of him as Satan? People think it's just a character.
I think people think it's just a character.
No. Do you
And he
think
takes credit for it.
So he thinks it's just the character that they're referring to, not his actual business practices?
I think so. I think he's gotten to that age now that he's probably...
I think people blame him and think he's responsible for wrestler deaths and he runs these people ragged.
Right.
But he's always kind of, from accounts of people who've worked closely with him, tried to make himself available and be human and say, if someone presented that they needed time off, it's a job. You're there to do a job, and so if you want time off, you have to give me a reason. More often than not, people didn't get their way. People have also said, like, Vince is a salesman, so he'll tell you.
Sure, he could. He has Jedi mind tricks.
Amriel, like, I see you as a main event guy. I see you with a title run down the line. These are things you need to do to get there. You go back and say, hey, Vince told me he's gonna put the belt on me.
Yeah.
And that's where. And then when it doesn't pan out, and he sees someone else. Then it goes back and says, oh, Vince promised me the world and he gave me nothing. He didn't give me an opportunity. He buried me.
Right.
So I think he's smart enough to know that the Mr. McMahon character that stemmed from Montreal, of this like evil, ruthless businessman, said, I can not do this for my own self-preservation, or I can make some green, put it out on the screen. So I think that's where he knows that people are going to buy a satanic doll of me because they think that's me.
Right.
That's more money in my pocket. I don't really give a damn what you think
He's
of
a
me.
marketing genius.
Right. I do think he is. Think he is.
So,
but I also do think that he might be getting up there in age, and he might not be so in touch with the fans.
I think he's an old man. Like, he's an old man living in 2019 doing
Trying to
old
do
man
his
practices.
best.
But I think that's very different from calling someone satanic, right? Like,
yeah.
if they put like a senile puppet out there that was like showing up at the Firefly Fun House and being like, is this the barbershop? Or
Sure.
where's Brutus? Or is this the Brother Love show? And it's like,
wow.
what? Like, what? Who are you? It's like, no, these are the sets.
Right.
And it's like, no, this is... Anyways, are you IRS? Like, just like...
That's crazy.
A little bit forgetful. Then that would be a bit more poking fun or...
Yeah. Okay. I see you. Man, I want to see that now.
Who knows? Maybe next week.
Maybe
or at
next
Stomping Grounds.
Oh, Stomping Grounds. Yeah. Are you guys watching Stomping Grounds?
No, even if they let me in, I'm not watching that show.
I just learned about it. How long has this podcast been on?
13 minutes.
Yeah, so 14 minutes ago.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think Stomping Ground is basically a rehash of their last pay-per-view. I think it's all the same matches. I'm not sure if anything is different. I won't be watching because there's quite frankly nothing to hook me. It would be
into Rakakit versus Samoa Joe.
Oh yeah, right. It would be hilarious if Bray debuts there. That would be horrible for him, but
I'll watch if Sean lets me in.
ooh.
Oh, man.
We won't go to the X-rated joke. Yet. But overall, I'm kind of nervous to see Bray wrestle again because when he starts wrestling, I don't think we'll get these vignettes no more.
Yeah, I have if you guys have time, I have an idea of how to prolong these vignettes, but to make him a more weekly character in the kind of the story of the show.
Let's hear it.
So I think you maintain the Firefly Fun House. It's not a talk show, but every now and then someone shows up.
Okay.
So whether
Is this happening in the ring or on screen?
it's on screen, so it's the same the
Yeah.
screen, and then Bray welcomes everyone, and then this is unusual. I never get guests, and it's like the first one is R-Truth or Drake Maverick trying to hide with a 24/7.
Yeah,
Hey
yeah.
Bray, I didn't know you were here. I just took a corner down the hall,
Sure,
and
sure,
like
sure.
a little bit of like a wink at the it's not really a set.
Yeah.
And then he talks to him and he says, "Oh, like you were so quick to get here." And R-Truth hides, and they talk about the 24 title, and then the Rabbit tries to pin R-Truth, kicks out, and then Bray turns to the screen and is like, "You never know what's gonna happen at Firefly Fun House."
Right.
Whatever. 5 minutes, but like it's a regular, and then the next week, Heavy Machinery. Like you have the goofball characters kind of show up first,
right.
or like EC3 being like, "Oh, I heard this is total nonstop action at this show," and there's a wink at the TNA reference. EC3 shows up.
Yeah.
Bray is like, "Aren't you, Derek Bateman?" And whatever. He's like, "No, that's, I want out if you're gonna whatever." Leaves.
So now, are these happening while he's wrestling?
So I don't know how often he would wrestle, but I think he needs to interact with people first to start to get an idea. Then I would slowly transition, and then the next maybe towards the end of the last pay-per-view or whatever, I would have as SummerSlam is approaching, I would have that knock at the door, and you hear the trombone, and you hear more than one person, and in comes New Day, and it's Kofi, it's Big E, Xavier, and they're making all their jokes, and you see Kofi still champion, and Bray starts to make eyes at the belt.
Right.
And the clown face or whatever shows up
The
a little
Fiend.
bit, and he's like, "Nope." And New Day is like, "What was that?" And New Day, he's like, "Come back next week." And then it'd be like, "Oh wow, it's the first time he's ever invited someone back to the Firefly." Xavier shows up, and then he talks to Xavier and Big E and Kofi leave, and takes him out somehow.
Right.
And then Xavier's kind of written off for a bit because the Fiend showed up. Big E shows up, and the puppets and whatever, kind of whatever, and then as you build, it's like, "Kofi, you've let me in. You've been here." The
Fiend.
Bray Wyatt disappears, and the Fiend is like, "I'm taking what's most prized to you," and you kind of set up he's actually pursuing the belt instead of this coming back and beating Apollo Crews that does nothing, right? Beating.
So I like it, and there's a layer to that too because New Day and the Wyatt family have had history. They had that Wyatt family compound match, which was basically a ripoff of the Hardy compound match. So they do have the history there, and it would be good for Bray to tackle something huge.
Right. I think he has to out of the gate.
I don't think that's what they're going to do.
No, I don't think so either. I think on Twitter he's tried to make amends with guys he's done wrong in his past feuds. So,
but if you read them, they're kind of backhanded.
They're backhanded. So that's why I think Orton showing up would be good.
Right.
And it's just the worms, and Orton rolls his eyes and just walks out the house, right? Oh, not this stupid stuff again.
Or he walks in with a can of gas, and they're like, no, you can't be here.
Luke, whatever. I think the Dudleys he talked about, even though I don't think Bubba Ray and any of them are coming back.
Oh, no.
Finn Balor.
I think they're going to reignite that feud. Right off the bat, I think it will be the Fiend versus the Demon King. If not that, do you think he's coming back as a face or a heel?
I think he's gonna do, when he's in the purple sweater thing, he's a baby face, and then
kind of an abyss.
He's trying to suppress the
Fiend,
the heel, but he eventually gets provoked. So I don't know if he's feuding with like Aleister Black when he comes back, because Aleister's been asking for an opponent on SmackDown. I think that's a bit too much debuts in one, and somebody has to take the loss right off the bat.
And Aleister Black has started saying, "Come,
let me in.
come knock on my door."
Yeah.
So maybe there's a little wrestling at our door right now.
They're set.
So yeah, I'm not sure. Like I said, like I don't want to get. That was my personal idea of like, okay, now I've hyped this up and it's not happening. But I do think it should be challenging for either the Universal or the WWE. I think Finn Balor is a cold character, so that makes
Finn Balor still has the IC title.
Yeah.
I think,
but he's not even on Stomping Grounds.
I definitely think it will be Finn.
That got mentioned twice.
Because he also did say the Fiend is here to protect us. I'm not sure which direction they're going to go with. I could see them fucking it up and being you're a heel, so we won't sell no more merchandise. You're just a heel. Mm-hmm. But it would be the smart thing for them to do to keep him face. Even the Fiend character face. You know what I mean? Because people are into it.
Yeah.
He could just be a ruthless, like an Undertaker. Like Undertaker could be a good guy, but still have his vicious streak towards him, right?
Yeah. I think if they want him to be a babyface, then you keep him away from Kofi Kingston. If you want this guy to be your top heel, he has to be the one to beat Kofi. Because Kofi, to his credit, is still a hot babyface that people are behind. And the guy who takes the belt from him is going to get. And do you want that heel heat on, God forbid, your Baron Corbin, Jinder Mahal, like just wasted opportunity? You want to like get this guy as hot as possible. So
true. Well, that's fans. That's just a couple of fans' opinions. Only time will tell what they actually do with the character. But speaking of fans' opinions, I think we should talk about the different types of wrestling fans that there are. Sean, to me, you would be one of the hardcore wrestling fans, but not your prototypical hardcore wrestling fan. You go to shows sometimes, indie and WWE.
Mostly, yeah.
You buy merch, the figures, jerseys, belts, video games, but you're still grounded in realism.
And have a girlfriend.
And have a girlfriend and don't live with your parents and all this stuff. Yeah. Ricky, you are, we will say, a casual.
Yes.
But you still know your stuff. You still have video games, but I think that's more on the line of your video game passion. Video game passion. But you know who's who, and you have one or two T-shirts. Ironically, it's a video game wrestling T-shirt. It's a John Cena.
Oh yeah, you remember that?
Yeah.
You gave me that.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even know you had it. And I have a Rated R Superstar shirt that you guys got me, right? Or
someone,
yeah.
That's a good shirt.
Yeah, best superstar there ever was.
Oh man, shout out to Christian.
Yeah.
And I would be kind of a middle ground between you guys.
A stomping ground.
A stomping ground between. I watch the product every now and again. I watch the YouTube every now and again. I know what's happening behind it. Well, I think I know what's happening behind the scenes, You could call me a mark, I guess. But then there are those other wrestling fans. The mass appeal wrestling of fans that believe wrestling is still real. I think we have those people that are in existence still. It's still real to me, damn it. Oh,
is there? Or is it?
It just runs the gamut. You have some who, like children, but children are figuring it out more early. Like I remember when I was a child, I really didn't realize what people meant by being fake until I was like maybe 13. And that's pretty late in the game. As someone who's worked with youth and children in the past and tried to hold up kayfabe with kids, they were like, oh, but this guy... Well, I remember when I heard a kid say put over, and I was like so devastated. I was like, oh, man. But I remember I talked to one kid, and he's like, who's your favorite wrestler? And this was like 2011. I was like, oh, Wade Barrett, Sheamus. And he's like, you like all the wastemen. And
man.
And that made me really happy that he stuck to the baby faces, followed it.
Right.
You have you have different people who with different believability. There's certain fan base. If you go to live shows, the live show,
you'll find. I think you'll find the bread and butter of WWE's fan base, and it's not exactly.
It's like the stereotypical wrestling fan. If you think about, I remember when I used to watch the pay-per-views at Scarborough Town Center's theater.
Yeah.
And
STC.
I went by myself because, every 1 in 5 is a wrestling fan, and of my 5 friends, it's just me. So I'm not gonna drag them to that. But I sat, in the center, watched a show, and a kid started mouthing off, like just swearing.
Oh.
And I was just like, hey, buddy, like, there's a family down in front of us. Like, maybe just watch your language.
Right.
And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. And I was like, but as I was talking to him,
But he's getting into it.
he's getting into it. He's like asking questions about like, how good is this guy?
Yeah.
And like you could just tell he was easily duped.
Yes,
for a grade 10, 11. And what's funny is he, asked to add me on Facebook to like whatever
Continue the
conversation, and I like blocked him because I didn't really talk to him. But I unblocked him like, and he messaged me like within years later and was like, I was just looking at the messages I sent you, and I was really immature. I'm so sorry for like acting like that. So it just shows like as youth kind of mature and grow, their believability and the unfortunate thing is as a lot of people get older, they fall out of wrestling, right? So
Correct. How do you think people fall out of wrestling?
I think once you figure out the magic, and like it's hard to, if you want to devote that time to having the wool pulled over your eyes, then you'll watch.
But is it because I feel like we still watch movies?
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's something about wrestling that people still see as I actually had a conversation at work where I talked about with the NBA offseason now, I'll stick to just watching WWE predominantly in the week. And this one of the girls was like, WWF is still on the TV?
Oh, shit.
And I almost had an intergender match. But so, yeah, I think people just think, like, this is just a goofy fictional show. I don't get the appeal. And, like, we know what movies are, but wrestling is just, like, so, the stereotypical view of, like, it's so very clearly predetermined and rehearsed.
Right.
But as we talk about fan base, it's very interesting the criticism of the product and the online community that comes to its defense,
right,
and the online community that comes to destroy anything that says anything about wrestling or disagrees with their opinion. So I don't know how often you guys are online, but
it's wild that we can be from vastly different backgrounds, vastly different like upbringings, and still love a product. Actually, going back to Firefly Fun House, I don't know if I said that. I know I spoke to you guys about it off air, but when Bray had those dejected looking kids in the Firefly Fun House, I think that was a direct parallel to WWE fans. So the Firefly Fun House would be the WWE universe. The dejected kids would be you and me. We like the product. We're going to be there, but we're not entirely happy with it, And I don't know. I find it wild. Like, I could not agree with so many people on so many things regarding the product, but still love it and still like watch it and want to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Ricky? With your experience from different kinds of fans, is it cringy? Is it like?
It's a little cringy, but being a video game fan, I've seen the worst of cringe, and I can be part of that too, right?
Right.
Like let's be totally honest, but that's where the parallels lie in. These different forms of entertainment, you're always going to have your extreme cases, right?
But my thing is, I feel like the extreme cases are the majority when it comes to wrestling fans. I feel like people like Yumi and Sean are the outliers.
Maybe us in particular, right? But I think there's still more people like Sean than you give credit for. Like, I don't think the stereotypical wrestling fan is as rampant as you're making it. But that's just my opinion. Like, right. I don't have actual stats or whatever, right?
Sure.
Because then I think of people like my dad who likes it and everything. He's just not as knowledgeable now just because he's old.
Right.
But he watches every week and he still critiques it. Like, he'll be like, oh, that was dumb or that was this. But he will go back and watch it, right? Mm-hmm. But he wouldn't be someone that's, like, online, but that's because he can't turn on a computer.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I just think that it's still very similar to other forms of entertainment in terms of the stereotypical fan is still a small percentage. Maybe it is greater than a video game fan.
Right.
Or, I don't know, a Pokemon fan.
Yeah, just a fanatic of any genre.
Exactly. But...
So not any more cringy than anything else?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I've seen... We went once to, I think it was when here in Canada they were going to start showing Raw on the Score. I think that's what it was for.
Yeah.
And they had a bunch of superstars. Edge was the WWE champion at the time. So we went there and we watched, and I just remember there was some questionable people there. I mean, I'm glad they're a huge fan of wrestling, but it's very cringe-worthy. But
Gotcha.
I mean, you're always going to get that, and it depends on certain situations, right?
How do you mature up an audience?
That's a good question. How do you mature up an audience? I don't know. Do you mature the actual product? Do you change the product so that people change with it?
Yeah.
But then that's just assuming that they're sticking with the product.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
if you
right?
change it, yeah. And I know WWE's strategy. You appeal to young kids because that's what gets things sold, right?
Yeah.
That's the main merchandise buyers. Hey, Ma, I want that shirt. Or hey, Pops, give me that belt. Something like that. And then those kids grow up with the product. It happened with you, me. It happened with Sean. We started from small, and now we're still fans of it, right? And then you potentially go into an attitude era, and then swing around back into a PG, and it just kind of keeps on going cyclical.
Yeah.
Or out the gate, you start off with a little bit more mature product like AEW, right? And appeal to, I guess, the online internet fan base.
Yeah.
Sean, your thoughts?
Sorry, yeah. I just to get some data on the online community, I went to Twitter. So CM Punk actually put out a tweet this afternoon. He said, "Since I can't have fun and tweet about movies or baseball without you telling me about wrestling, question for you: why do you spend your time on something you hate? If it's so bad, leave it. I did. Works wonders. I look forward to the intelligent discourse." Now that's a great tweet. I'm not there to analyze. I retweeted it and liked it, but it's the replies that have like really killed me. There's the one reply that CM Punk actually like replied to. Their parents are getting older. Their friends are married and having kids. The neighborhood they grew up in is unfamiliar. They see a stranger's face when they look in the mirror. But bringing back the people who wrestled when they were younger will fix it all. So that's how people are just like why they can't give it up. And then people replying to him like it's just like it's called passion and holding out hope that something that used to be epic will be that way again. So you have like people on both sides. I just don't get like there's never consensus in the online community.
Never,
right? So if I tell you Seth Rollins is the worst wrestler I've ever seen,
right?
Boom, people are like, oh, you know, like you probably like were a product of incest, and that's why you don't know anything about talent. And you know, it's not even Seth Rollins, it's Tyler Black. And like, it's just like, why don't you just say I disagree?
You're right.
I like Seth Rollins.
Right.
Who do you like?
Sure.
And I'd be like, you know, I like Lars Sullivan. I think he's a better wrestler.
Jeez.
Like I just don't.
You're a racist for liking Lars Sullivan.
I don't like. That's why I get off Twitter. But sometimes I love the retweeting, like when people quote tweet like dumb replies, like and just put the fans on blast. And I just go to their like. I hate this game.
Bray
and
Wyatt
it's terrible.
is wicked at that.
But I go to their profile and I look and it's like 7 followers, and I was like, oh man, you went and insulted Alexa Bliss with 7 followers.
Yeah.
Your Twitter handle is I like the Dodgers, love LA. Like, okay, and like the interest is always like what gets me. It's like I'm a baseball enthusiast, support the troops. Like always like your clear tropes, and like it's always like you know, I won in swimming, gymnastics, love WWE, and all their things is like, please pay attention to me at Rock, please pay attention to me at Paige, please pay and it's like you finally got them to, and like I hate that no wrestler ever retweets like the fans that are positive.
The good ones,
It
is funny to see them retweet those.
It's a dangerous game. I don't suggest it. It's not good for your mental health. But sometimes I just have to be like, what is your profile? And it's like an avatar of another wrestler.
Right.
Seth Rollins boy 101, and then everything is like Seth Rollins' life. This is
what do you think?
Site.
Have you been on YouTube recently on YouTube comments?
I don't go to YouTube comments.
Oh my goodness.
Surrendered those.
There are some people who use the names like Seth Rollins or Alexa Bliss and have their picture. They would pretend to be these people, but then it's the so most cringiest thing. It's so cringy. And then people would actually respond to them. It's like, stop feeding the trolls, people. It's like, and then that's where you see like, I guess experience. What would you call it? If they buy into it, would you call them immature fans or would you call them fans?
The fans that buy into
storylines.
Marks, like,
okay, sure, like, marks. But then
the online marks, I guess. But
well, no, not marks. It would be marks. Smarks. So smart marks would be guys who see past the veil. It's so weird. It's a weird fan base. But the funny thing is, I won't leave it.
Yeah.
I have my issues with it, but I definitely won't
I'm open
leave it.
for a good conversation, and I've had, not that I have that many Twitter followers myself, but anytime.
What's your Twitter?
So I'm at Walk with Ali.
Yeah, if you just jumped up 5,000 right now.
But usually people are pretty good. I've had some people like tell me my opinion is not worth anything or to F off. I mean, you get like the most, I've had like vulgar ones where it's just like go F yourself and F in this and suck a whatever. And it was like, okay, sorry that I said Roman Reigns is a Universal Championship bound. Like, yeah, and you just mute and block and they end up talking to themselves.
Right.
My favorite thing is to mute. My favorite thing is to not reply. Because then you're sitting there like wanting this reply, but
yeah,
oftentimes it's been pretty
they get hot.
Tasteful, or I just try to educate, like the kid I was talking to, or anybody who's open to having a conversation. But
I feel like the type of wrestling fan I am, I have to I'll have my opinions, and luckily I have this outlet to talk to similarly minded people. But I won't engage in. I couldn't engage in
comment war, basically.
Comment war. I think I was on a What Culture video, and one of the guys, I think it was Adam Pacitti, said that he wants to see Cena back. I'm like, what? Like, to me, I like John Cena the person. If you've ever seen his character, like his actual character, like the dude, like the Make-A-Wish guy, the interview guy, he like puts people up on business. I like that real John Cena. I don't like the character John Cena. I think he was bad for wrestling. He was basically another Hogan in a time where we didn't need another Hogan. So I simply put, I like the guy, I like the dude, but I don't like the character. I don't want to see him back. And then someone was like, oh, I'm a good wrestler and I could wrestle good. How is that a bad thing? I'm like... And then he's like, you would have really loved WCW. I'm like, what? Like, what is that supposed to be an insult? Like, why are you talking to me right now? I thought it was just pretty funny. I'm like, are you 12? Like, what are you saying? Like, I just don't like this character.
Why did you do it, Sean?
It was Sean. But yeah, everybody has their opinions, and that even leads to WWE, ECW, WCW, TNA even had one. Wrestling games. TNA has had a wrestling game. Actually, they were supposed to have two, but that didn't pan out. Obviously, WWE has a plethora of games. WCW had their fair share of games back in the day. Ricky, I know you'd have a little bit more insight on this topic. Let's talk about wrestling games and their impact on us.
Specifically, wrestling video games.
Yes, sir. What other wrestling games are there?
We played the DVD games. We played the WWE board game.
Yeah.
We've unfortunately dabbled in other wrestling games.
What's the WWE board game?
Didn't you get Superstars?
Yeah, it was. I don't know.
We bought it for Miguel for his birthday one. He always got the worst gifts. Because it's not like his parents are ever going to play that game with him, and it's not like we ever wanted to play it with him. I'm sorry, Miguel. Yeah, it's very unmemorable because I don't even remember exactly. I know Carlito was one of the superstars in it. That's something I remember.
Okay, so what was the first wrestling video game you guys played?
The first?
I think there was one for the NES. I remember like Honky Tonk Man was in it. Andre was in it.
Could you recognize the characters?
Yeah. Bam Bam Bigelow was in it, so it was pretty interesting. It was guys from like the late 80s.
Right.
But I had to borrow that game, so it was like pretty coveted. Yeah. Royal Rumble for the Sega Genesis. I was at my grandmother's house, despite none of my cousins being wrestling fans. So that was really fun.
Well, that's the thing. Wrestling video games are legit video games. Yeah. You know, you can have so much fun. You don't even have to know anything. The mechanics are in place to have a great time, you know? Mm-hmm. So it was just amazing to fuse two of my loves in one. I think the first wrestling video game I played was for the Super Nintendo. It was one, I can't remember the name. Ricky, you probably help me out on this one. But it was one where they had like powers, like Undertaker
Doink with the hammer.
Oh, that's the first one I remember playing too. You're talking about the WrestleMania arcade game for the SNES, where you only had 6 characters to select from. Yeah,
I remember Undertaker he would pull out a tombstone, and he would hit you over the head, and he would shoot ghosts at you. I think Lex Luger had a giant fist, like Battletoads.
It was the first sim-based wrestling.
I just remember the commentary in that because it was my friend had the Super, and we always played. And you like went to different stages if you were like doing the tournament.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And like your guy was always like bouncing, and then I remember Bret Hart always stood out to
Oh,
me.
yeah, Bret.
Because like I think I can't remember if it was Vince or whatever, but every time you'd win with Bret Hart, you got to give credit to Bret Hart, and you like transition to the next one. Like, but
That
my
was-
favorite was the pin him.
That was a real good game. I remember seeing that. I'm playing it as a little kid. I already thought Undertaker was like the best thing ever. I'm like, he can do that? He can shoot ghosts? I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Because I think Shawn Michaels and the rest of them just had like normal, like their legs get bigger and like,
Yeah.
so it'd just be like a normal like punch and kick. But like Undertaker pulling out a what?
Yeah,
A
just
tombstone?
bashing over.
Oh, man.
It was so good. Was Ultimate Warrior in that game?
No, I think it was Doink. There was either 8 guys. Doink, Lex Luger, Yokozuna, Undertaker, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. I think Razor Ramon.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And maybe IRS.
Oh, that's weird. That's a that's a random one. I remember really enjoying that
But
game.
I remember Doink would have the red tights and the purple tights if you chose the same.
Oh right.
Luger would have like the red stripes, purple
Yeah,
stripes.
yeah, yeah.
Undertaker was like purple and blue.
And gray, I think, was it?
Something, yeah.
I remember.
And Razor was like purple and green or something.
It was a port, by the way, of the arcade game.
Yeah, I remember.
So WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game, was its official name, even when it got ported over.
Right. Yeah. I just remember loving
No, it was, yeah.
picking the same character. It was like evil versus good, and I have to beat my evil twin or evil clone. Then I switched on to N64 games. Arguably some of the best wrestling games ever made.
Yeah.
I stayed away from the WCW games. I did play some of them, but I was more of a WWF guy at the time. My favorite WWF N64 game was WrestleMania 2000. So much fun with that. Even though people argue that I think it was No Mercy was the better
Mercy
game.
is supposedly the better one.
Yeah, because you could go backstage in that one, I think.
Oh. I haven't played. I never played it. I didn't have an N64, so I never. Played
Me
any of these
either.
games.
So my cousin from New York came down and he would bring a 64 and we just like, oh man, all summer just
But
wrecked that game.
I do remember playing at a birthday party. We did a fatal 4-way, and they picked Triple H, Austin, either Undertaker or The Rock.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I don't pick main eventers. I pick guys who are up and coming.
Yeah.
And I remember picking Bradshaw, being like, this guy will
JBL?
be something down the line. And then when he turned into JBL, I was very proud of myself.
Nice.
But I only talked to Miguel, who we mentioned here. It's his birthday, but nobody remembered that day when I pegged Bradshaw.
JBL.
Damn.
But I lost, so. But I'm always playing guys over in the video games too.
Yeah.
Ricky, how about you?
Well, I share the same first video game experience as you. At least that I remember is that WWF WrestleMania game.
Yeah.
Then I transitioned to the N64 and PS1. But the PS1, I remember just having the ones I played at least were not very good. I remember for some reason WWF Warzone. I think it was Austin on the cover.
Yeah.
That was a terrible game. It had cutscenes and everything. It was just
The PS1 didn't have. It had one. I think it was just SmackDown.
no. They had. I'm almost 100% sure I played
No, I'm not.
Warzone.
I'm not denying your Warzone.
Oh, you mean
I'm
like their
saying
own?
They had a good game, a good wrestling game.
Oh, yeah.
I
The
think
SmackDown series started on
our buddy,
the PS1, right?
our buddy Sonny had that, and he would customize a bunch of characters, and he would put his friends in the game. That was pretty hilarious.
WCW had a good place PS1. I remember my cousin had it, and like you do the rants, like before.
Oh wow.
And I bought it for the PC. It didn't have this. I needed like a 3D whatever at that time, but that's when you had like 256 color a bit and all
Oh
that.
man.
But I remember the rants. So like it was like pick me. But I remember Kevin Nash's stood out to me. And we can pull up on YouTube later. Where Kevin Nash was like, "Don't pick me. Pick Luger. Pick Ultimo Dragon. You don't want to pick me.
Yeah.
Pick somebody else."
So that's
it's
infamous
funny.
because Nash did talk about that. He's like, "Yo, I showed up drunk to the recording."
Oh,
and I'm
so that's why he did that, eh?
And I remember my cousin and my sister, and I guess me, we were young, very insensitive kids, and you wouldn't get away with this in this day and era, would always pick the Ultimo Dragon rant just to hear him talk in Japanese and then laugh.
It's prototypical.
Classic insensitive youth.
That's true.
That's my Nitro story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. What was that last week?
And then we went on to the GameCube, Xbox, and PS2 generation of wrestling games, and I feel my favorite wrestling game ever Day of Reckoning 2 for
Yes.
the Nintendo GameCube.
Agreed.
Mechanically well. Now, when it came out, it could not compete with the features of Raw versus SmackDown. SmackDown versus Raw. But the mechanics, just the fun aspect of Day of Reckoning 2 was wonderful. The 4-player, multiplayer, story mode even. It was just a good time. And the graphics.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it looked beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, the graphics looked amazing. The only thing I didn't like too much, though it did add some realism, was the stamina bar.
Oh, yeah.
I used to like doing triple threat and like Fatal 4 matches, so you would always grab a weapon and you swing that chair 3 times, you're
Stamina done.
Yeah.
And you would have to walk around slowly to build it up. Ukes really outdid themselves with that one, and it's a shame Nintendo stopped getting wrestling exclusive games.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think it's good overall for them to have the same games as the other consoles.
Yeah.
Sean, I know you have a lot of experience with the SmackDown versus.
Yeah, I loved. So when I got up to PS2, I was dead set on getting Here Comes the Pain.
Oh yeah.
Me and shout outs to Miguel. He keeps coming up in these video game stories.
We might have to get him on the show.
I remember in the Toronto area, we biked to Kennedy and Ellesmere because we heard there's like a video game store there. Wasn't there. Went to Walmart. Wasn't there. We lived near the Fairview Mall area. And we ended up we just basically biked in a square and came back to, I don't know if you guys remember CompuCenter.
Oh yeah.
And they sold Here Comes the Pain, bought that with like $50 that I had to my name. And just like played. I love that game so much. I love the story mode. I love the graphics. I still love that game. I still have it. I don't have a PlayStation anymore. But,
right.
And then that led me to buy SmackDown vs. Raw, SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, SmackDown vs. And then eventually I stopped buying SmackDown vs. Raw because that was like in the 08, 09 where I was like, I don't even care about this roster.
Right.
And then the next PlayStation game I got was for the PS3 was WWE 13 when CM Punk was on, and they did the teaser of Punk vs. Austin.
Yeah, that was huge.
But Here Comes the Pain is probably my favorite wrestling
I remember. So for me, the SmackDown versus Raw games, they were harder than Day of Reckoning. For me, the inputs were a little bit different. It was like, I don't know what it was, but I guess because I didn't grow up with the system, it was just like slightly different. And I think I like the simplistic version of the Day of Reckoning franchise better than...
I feel they're very, very similar. It's more the actual controller that you're using, because I think it was still the R2 or the bumper or whatever was your reverse for a strike.
Reverse strike and reverse grapple.
Yeah. So they were similar, but I can understand, especially if you're used to the GameCube controller, it's going to feel more natural.
I was jealous of all the modes you guys got, though.
Yeah, it was feature heavy.
And I remember there was one mode where they did the voiceover for the guys.
Oh, wow.
And then eventually they got rid of that. But it was a big feature apparently in the 2006. But yeah, the SmackDown games are pretty sexualized though. You had bra and panties.
Oh yeah,
matches.
you had bra and panties.
Yeah. It was that time period.
There was a story mode in either the first SmackDown vs. Raw where the guy you're following, you can either create a wrestler. Or be Batista, Tajiri, whatever.
Right.
You could either pursue the championship, which is usually the goal of every wrestler, or you could pursue every valet. So you would feud with Tajiri over Tori services, and then Tori, if you beat Tajiri, Tori would sneak off with you in the shower, and then they show up Raw getting tossed. Then you would get with Sable. Then if you help Stacy defeat whoever was like whoever she was managing at the time, she did like a lap dance for you. And then at WrestleMania, the culminating was a triple threat ladder match. And I remember my guy teamed with Shawn Michaels, and we had to grab Trish's thong.
Oh my
gosh! Trish, there's a cutscene where Trish is like in a bra, and just says like "Satisfaction guaranteed," and the screen goes black, and like your controller rumbles.
So that shit would not fly today at all.
Do you think the Divas knew about that?
Yeah, because Trish, Stacy, and Tori voiced over.
What
they had to say. You can pull it up on YouTube.
Okay.
There was a Sable one, but I don't remember the Sable storyline. I tried to avoid
also
her.
if you say her storyline, Brock might kill you.
Yeah. But it was, I mean, I guess to their target audience, which at the time I was probably grade 11, 12.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yes.
Especially if you didn't have high speed
internet.
It's very interesting.
Wow, that's crazy. But it goes to show you too, like, times have definitely changed. And the people who are supposedly being subjected didn't really see it as subjugation.
No. As we're talking about this perversion, there was in either the follow-up to that, Tay had in another bra and panties match. I don't remember if you guys remember, there was like a meter.
Yeah, you had to stop.
So you had to stop it 3 times. And if you got in the bonus, she'd spank. If you got 3 in a row, because I remember again playing, I think it was Miguel. If you disrupted it, it would reset. So like if you disrupted the 3 in a row, you'd have to do it again. If you got 3 in a row, the 2 divas would make out.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just trying to think like why.
Amazing.
Why? How? And that was like 10 years ago. Was it like it wasn't like these were dog years ago?
Yeah.
That's funny.
And yeah, I remember. I remember I interrupted somebody's like 3. They got 2 perfect, and the meter was this smart. I interrupted, and the person like flipped out on me.
You asshole! We almost got to see the polygons kiss.
Yeah, just oh man.
Yeah, I mean we've come a long way. What's the last wrestling game you played?
WWE 2K18. I didn't buy 2. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that one runs horribly on the Switch.
That's what I've heard.
Oh, that's and that's why 19's not coming to the Switch.
Yeah, yeah. They did not optimize at all for the system specs. Did it run good on other systems?
I thought it's pretty good on the Xbox. I think it's easy to pick up. I mean, Dad would prove that it isn't, based on some people, like casual people when we did it at a game night here, didn't enjoy it. But I think it's a fun, easy to pick up game.
Okay.
Not everyone enjoys it.
Right. I think, what's the last one?
No, last one would probably be that one that you brought over for that game night. But I did want to shout out one that's not a WWE game, but the Def Jam
Vendetta.
It
was supposed to be
Fight for NY. That series, I love that series.
It was supposed to be a WCW game.
What?
Yeah, they took.
Wow.
They took the mechanics and they just never passed the WCW license. They went another route, and they said, "Hey, we have this great mechanic. Let's apply it to something," and that's how those games are made.
Wow, I did not know that. You could also, because you were mentioning the thing about the storyline about battling basically for women.
Yeah.
I know in Def Jam Vendetta you would fight 4 girlfriends, and then you would actually have a fight where you fought as one of the women.
Yeah.
And then you would actually unlock photos of the model that person represents. So of course I had to play the game and play it like 4 times so I can unlock every girlfriend and get this like maximum photos of these girls. Yep, it was a rough time, 2013.
Oh man.
I think I like the second Def Jam better than the first one.
Most people do.
But yeah, I can't wait to... I think we might play a wrestling game after this podcast.
We could play some... I don't have Fight for NY, but I do have Def Jam Vendetta and Day Reckoning 2.
I'm down to play some Day of Reckoning.
And on that note, before we go, all-time greatest wrestling game.
Probably Day Reckoning 2.
Day Reckoning 2?
Yeah.
Sean?
Here comes the pain.
Here comes the pain. I will go with... Shoot, it's real close between that Super Nintendo Powers game and Day Reckoning 2, but I think I'm going to edge out and give Day Reckoning 2 my favorite wrestling game of all time. Mm-hmm. We might even play through it on Generic Side Quest proper. Mm-hmm. OG Generic Side Quest. But with that being said, I'll leave you all with another generic transmission. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.